Hey, welcome to the interior of the Mercedes 300 SEL, the W126. Today I'm going to do some replacement of bulbs on, let's see, here you go. It's the HVAC, and I've already replaced a bulb back in here that gives light to most of the switches, and I've replaced the light bulb that lights up the shift quadrant. But today we're going to deal with the HVAC and the ashtray. Very, very simple stuff. Basically, we're just going to walk through it. So if you want to start with this, pulling the wood trim off. How about we don't do that? We'll lift this out, and you've got 2 Phillips screws there. That will in effect release the ashtray. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I've done this a few times, so everything should come out pretty darn easily. And hopefully you're not going to have any issues hearing me. I'm trying to talk as close to the microphone as possible. So 1 and 2. Okay, here we go. That's out. Yep, get my big fingers in there. Okay, and then we can just very simply remove the ashtray, and we're going to set that aside. And the bulb for the ashtray is right there. So we're going to get that in a moment. Now, I'm sort of cheating with the stereo, just having this faceplate sit there while I'm waiting for a proper one that I hope will work. I may not be able to do this while holding a camera. No, I'm not sure I can. So, bear with me. I'm going to get the stereo out. It's just basically 2 tabs, but I just can't do it while holding a camera at the same time. And then we'll get the main part of the console out that has the switches and the HVAC. Hang tight. Okay, and we're back. So we got the front veneer off, as you can see. Basically, I'm just going to turn the camera around here. Here we see the stack of controls. There are 4 screws that hold the HVAC to the veneer. 1, 2, and 3 and 4. They're all Phillips. Super easy to remove. Next, you can see the light bulbs 1 and 2. One of the channels, one of the videos that I've watched, he suggested using flexible hosing to extract that bulb, the bulbs rather. Just distracted, there's some traffic around here. I've got very fine tweezers that I used from back in my days of building model cars, which seems to be something I've done for a very long time. So we're going to try and use those. Here we go. We'll see how effective or not. Maybe this isn't so effective. I can't get the leverage on these little things. Not with that. Let's try again. Maybe that idea with the tubing was not such a silly idea. Look at that. These guys, ooh, they are I'm going to see if I have some tubing. Well, that did not turn out the way I expected. You know, I'm reminded of the Rolling Stones song, "You can't always get what you want," and I can't get light out of my HVAC module. So I took this out of the dash, trying to get to the lights, and I put new lights in. I really wish I would have had rubber hosing to do what that fellow from What's the Channel, Stray Benz's. He has a very slick technique to change the lights. I think someone had been in here already, and they did quite a number on the light socket. Unfortunately, I had this entire unit apart. I had the circuit board out. I had lights in there. I was feeding it 12 volts right to the light socket, and the lights weren't coming on. And I checked the bulbs too, and they were good. So This is not a high priority thing, but we will eventually replace this module with something from eBay. Maybe we'll find something that has a thumb wheel that's a little bit nicer. It's just a reminder, you don't always win with these, but hopefully, you know, you win a little bit more than you lose, and that's okay. We learned. It took me some time to work through this. I learned how they're built, how to take them apart. It's not terribly difficult. It just simply wasn't the outcome I was looking for, and that's always a little disappointing. So that's on my list of things to address. We'll look at this. I was going to spend some time looking at power window switches, trying to get part numbers, because 3 out of the 4 switches do not illuminate, and I like to have that, you know, I like to have it right. I just may go ahead and order 4 switches from China. I think they're 4 for $20 Canadian, and then we'll get that installed. At any rate, I'm going to button this thing up, and it is what it is. No hard feelings, right? Right. Thanks. We'll be back with more haphazard repairs and unfulfilled goals and objectives on the next segment. Thanks, guys. Hey folks, welcome to the garage, literally in the garage. Today we're going to do a little bit of work on the W126 Mercedes. I have been going gangbusters changing lights in the dash, and the last segment we talked about changing out the lights in the HVAC, and I didn't have a lot of luck with that. There's something damaged in either the sockets or perhaps the actual connection into the circuit board that holds the lights themselves. So no worries, I found one in the great state of Utah. I ordered it from eBay, and it's the entire veneer as well, including all of the switches. And I have the funny feeling that maybe, just maybe, the rear defrost switch is not working. I had to change the light bulb in that. It did not make any difference. I did identify a fuse that was blown, which also powers the glove box light, which now works. So that's great. But that switch may be defective. So it just so happened that the HVAC module that I bought came with the whole works, so I'll have a few extra parts. So today we're going to change the light bulb in the headlight switch section of the dash. Pretty straightforward by the looks of it. I've thought that before though. And then we are going to, weather permitting, because it's a little bit cloudy and overcast and I'm working on my driveway, we're going to change the check arm on the passenger rear door. That was damaged. Damaged to the point, if you open the door far enough, it didn't want to close at all. It locked open essentially, and that's obviously no good, and it took a lot of finagling to get the door closed. So that's on today's agenda, so let's move forward with that. We'll see you in a sec. All right, so this is pretty straightforward and yet a little fiddly. So you've got a knob that has to come off. This guy right here, it just pulls straight out. That's no problem. A 24 millimeter nut. And here's the nut. That secures the plastic closeout to the actual switch. And I just simply used a 24 millimeter impact socket. Picked it up today just for this job. I figured, hey, why not? There's probably a few other things around here where I can use 24 millimeter. Now, for the record, I'm using a 37 size bulb, and this is where it gets a little fiddly. It doesn't really want to turn, it doesn't want to sit in there too easily. So let's see if we get it. Yeah, okay, there it is. There it is. There it is. It's a little awkward, but that's fine. We got it. So I'll just, there we go. Let me turn it around. I'll button this up and we'll show you what it looks like. Okay, I've got this button back together and I'll just show you that's the position of the nut there. It can be a little bit fussy to get started, but not to worry, just take your time. And when you turn the lights on, boom, there's everything illuminated. And I'll have to push this on a little bit further, but I want to see if I can recondition this knob. It's got some nasty marks from years of handling. So we're going to give that a shot before I push it back on and call this job complete. And just for reference, as I mentioned with number 37 bulb, that's the old one Hopefully you can see that. That's pretty tiny. That's the old one that came out, and it is indeed burned out. Now, I did see a video pertaining to a 124 series car where that dot on the knob was also illuminated, but there is no contact point in this particular switch for that to be illuminated. So that's pretty much it. So we've got that working. We've got all the lights in the switches here, not in the HVAC. We've got the light in the ashtray working. We've got the light for the shift quadrant working. We've got one switch currently lit. I decided to take a bit of a chance and order 4 switches from Amazon. They're made in China. They look exactly like these. They were 4 for $14.98 Canadian, plus about $5 for shipping. Can't get much better than that. We'll go through an install procedure when they come in. They are shipping from China, so it's going to take a couple weeks to get here. That's fine. I figured that would be the case. But for now, let's try and recondition that headlight switch, and we'll see where we go. Okay, so I cleaned up this headlight knobby, and the product that I used, picked up from the local Canadian Tire, our favorite automotive department store for everything. Anyway, Simon Eyes. We have Trim and Plastic Restorer, and I'm actually very pleased with that. All kidding aside, works very well. So we'll just pop that switch back in, and there we go. So illuminated, and that turns on the driving lights. This is where on the W124 that little button would be lit up, but there we go. That is all done. So now I am going to try using this cleaner, this plastic revitalizer, on a couple of other surfaces. And actually, since you're here with me, I'm just going to do this single-handedly. I don't think it should be too difficult. We'll put some of this stuff on. Bear with me. Odd camera angle coming. Okay. Whoop. And there it is. Now, we're just going to rub this stuff in, and we should restore kind of a nice sheen to this plastic, and I think that's exactly what is going on. I'm super pleased with that. There we go. That's nice. That's what I'm talking about. That is really nice. I'm very pleased with that. So there's going to be a lot of interior rejuvenation, but I think that particular part, if the rest of it goes like that, I am going to be incredibly pleased. So for another half hour or so, I'm going to be working on this, and the weather is not in my favor, so I'm not going to install the check arm because I need to have that door open so I can obviously take the door panel off. I think we're going to try again tomorrow. For now, I'm going to detail some of the interior, and then I've got episode 3 to edit. I don't even know what episode this is that I'm filming for. Episode 5, maybe 6, maybe episode 12. No, it's not episode 12. But I have to do some editing. So we're going to focus on that this evening after this work is done, and I'll be back with more cleaning and rejuvenating of the 1990 W126 300 SEL. Thanks for joining. Okay, so it's the next day at the garage. The weather has not dramatically improved, so we may do this next repair on the 126 Mercedes in stages. You know, we'll play it by ear and see how the weather cooperates. So today's job is to replace the check arm on the rear passenger side door of the car, and this is the check arm. And what does this do? Well, this end of it bolts into the actual door, and the arm of the check arm is secured to the door jamb of the body via a pin and a clip. And this basically controls not only how far the door opens and stays open, but just basically controls the manner in which the door opens. It's not going to go swinging wildly in either direction, open or closed. So it's kind of nice. Now the check arm that's there, it's a little bit seized up. The door doesn't want to open particularly that easily. And if you do get it open, it doesn't want to close. Matter of fact, the first time I opened that door, I thought I had it stuck. And I thought, oh God, what am I going to do now? I didn't have any tools to release the pin. And fortunately, I got it closed, but we can't have a door that functions that way. So in the check arm, before this one is installed, we're going to grease the tracks nice and thoroughly to ensure that we don't have any corrosion or whatnot. I suspect the one that's in there just has succumbed to corrosion. And these really are maintenance pieces. I bought this one on eBay for about 42 bucks plus, you know, whatever, a couple bucks for freight to get it here. The part comes unpainted. So what I did was purchase a metal etching primer and a touch-up paint that was close, because really you're just seeing, you know, that much of the part. And if it's not a 100% paint match to the Mercedes body color Arctic White, you know, I'm not going to be too upset about that. I'd rather just have the door function. So we're going to go through the repair. I'll show you what has to be done in terms of screw removal. And like I said, the weather isn't cooperating, but we'll just get down to it and do what we can when we can. Here we go. So I'm sitting in the back of the 126 because, hey, there's probably more room here than a typical downtown Toronto condo. And goodness knows this costs a lot less. So, as you can see, the door panel is off, and this was about 5 minutes to take off, if that. Very, very straightforward. As one fellow who did a video on his own personal build of a 126 said, these cars go together and you can take them apart and they go back exactly the way they were supposed to. Everything is so easy and straightforward. It's just remarkable. Now, I did take the broken check arm out, and I wanted to show you a couple of things. That is the check arm, not painted. It's pretty corroded, and I'm not sure you can see, but tucked up in that corner, just under my finger, is a ball bearing. That ain't supposed to be there. So that's why this check arm is destroyed. Huh. There we go. So we're just going to grease up the new one and get that installed. And then I'll walk you through. The garbage truck came by and there were some kids walking by on their way back to school, so it was a little bit of a challenge trying to get decent video. But I will get you some video of this thing going back together, which is always a little bit more challenging at any rate. Bear with me and we'll cut back to putting the door together. But first, like I said, we're going to start with greasing up the check arm so we don't get any corrosion issues in the future. Hang tight. Okay, so victory. The check arm itself is back on, and before we put the door card back on and button it up, I am going to clean the door card because this is the best time to do it. But first, I just want to show you where the check arm bolts into the door and, well, basically how the door works, or, you know, now that the proper check arm is in. So have a look. One bolt here and 2 bolts there. There's a pin, a washer, and then kind of like a C-clip, but not quite as effective. At any rate, that's what is working that. And now I'll show you the door. Have a look at this. Everything works as it should. The door stays open as it should. It's easy to open and close. There are no catches, no nothing. So that is a successful repair. Now we're going to go on to clean the door card, and I'll start putting this back together, and I'll show you all the spots that it actually fastens and what to watch for when you're putting it together. Okay, so taking our time, everything lines up putting the door card back on. Now what I did just to help things along, I think you can see it here, I put that knob on first so I wouldn't lose the threaded shaft. You know, as I was trying to put the door panel back on, that sort of acted as a bit of a guide. And the only real trouble spot was the clip right down here. So you've got to lay that door panel in on a bit of an angle. But from there, I mean, the rest is pretty straightforward. We're going to call that repair a success. And I think since I've got a little bit of time, since this went smoother than I thought, I'm going to get back into the center console, the shifts around and power window switches, because the light that I put in for the shift quadrant wasn't working last night. I'm trying to drive the car a couple times a day, just make notes of all the things it needs and you know, what repairs are sticking and what aren't. But I'm going to get into that next, and you're going to come with me. So give me a couple minutes and we'll get this one buttoned up. For now, check arm, check. All right, so I have the center console area apart. Basically, you open the ashtray, remove the ashtray, the actual spot where the ashes would be deposited if you were smoking, but please don't do that because it's not good for you. Once you've done that, you can expose the 2 Phillips screws, remove those, and then remove the ashtray assembly. You could just simply carefully set it aside, and then you remove the, or move, just simply move the storage cubby out of the way, remove this guy, the bezel around the shift quadrant, and then you can very carefully remove the wood veneer. You don't necessarily have to take the car out of park, but just move the panel very carefully. So the lamp is positioned, make sure you can see that, right there. The contact wasn't particularly good, so I took the bulb out and just sort of manipulated the metal, the actual contact points coming out of the bulb. So we're going to turn the lights on just to the park position and we'll verify that it's working. Here we go. There we go. There's the switch. Boop. First position. Hey, look. There you go. That's working. So we're just going to... Oh, it's not working. So I bet... Yeah, look at that. Look at that. That is really fussy. Haha. Okay, well, I mean, that's where it's got to go. No. I don't think I could do this with just one hand, so I'm going to put the camera down, but you get the idea. And this thing is really, really fussy, so you have to make sure that there's good contact in the light, in the bulb to the socket, and then everything will be good. And it just basically has to survive going into the opening in the front of the shift quadrant, and you're good to go. But it underscores the fact that in many old cars, not just Mercedes, but Jaguar, BMW, anything North American, doesn't matter, electrical connectors can be the culprit of a lot of your problems. So if you're experiencing electrical issues, take a few minutes, try and diagnose where the connectors are, and inspect them. There could be corrosion, a bunch of other nasty stuff. Just take a few minutes, be careful, work diligently, and you can work through just about anything on these older cars. They're not really that complicated. So I'm going to fiddle with this light for a few minutes, get it buttoned up, and we'll call that a success. Thanks. And next, I think next we're going to do some work on the passenger side seat. I have done one coat of it's Clyde's leather balm that I'm using. We're going to show you the before and after, walk you through the steps, and we're going to get a result. I know, because I'm sitting in a chair that's been treated with a Clyde's product. Works great. I used it in my SL 500 as well, and I had amazing results. So we're going to walk you through that process, and you'll see a seat transform and look super awesome. That's the plan anyway. Stay tuned. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Kurtski's Garage, or Kurtski's Driveway, as the case may be. So today's mini project on the W126 will be to start working on re-dyeing the front passenger seat. So I did one coat of the dye, the leather conditioning balm with pigment on the driver's seat, and I'm very pleased with the way it turned out. So I may have mentioned in a previous episode, the product I'm using is, drum roll please, it's Clyde's leather reconditioning balm. And you may have seen this on several other channels. I certainly did, and ordered product for the SL 500, which I applied to both seats. It's only a two-seater, and I was so pleased with the way it turned out, I knew that when I got a hold of this car, I would do the same process with the black seats. So we're going to do the front first. I'm not convinced I'm going to re-dye the back seat. I mean, it's a lot of work, but I think just a good cleaning will suffice, as it's typically the front seats, of course, that are used more and the driver's seat used the most. So there's several steps to this process. We start with what they call a deglazer. Well, it's really just acetone. So we're going to use acetone. That takes the top surface of the leather dye. I think they do spray it from the factory with something to seal it in. We have to get rid of that. You could tell if your leather has that protective spray if you put a few drops of water on it and the water simply beads off. So you have to get rid of that if you're going to be successful in applying the conditioning balm with the pigment. So we'll do that. It's very, very quick, and please do wear some gloves when you're working with that. It's a very dangerous and toxic and generally unpleasant chemical with a horrendous odor, but you know, that's what it is. It does the job. So we'll do that. Actually, first we're going, no, we'll do that first, then we're going to clean it. That's right. We're going to clean it with the cleaning foam. And once that part of the job is done, then we can move forward with the actual product, the pigment. When the pigment is in place, and you know, it doesn't take very long to dry. Like it's like 10 or 15 minutes. We'll check to make sure it's dry just simply by rubbing a towel on it, and we shouldn't see any black lifting. And when we get to that point, then we can apply the conditioning balm. And I really like this product. I think it's a good just all-purpose leather food, if you will. I know there are other great products out there as well. I've used them in the past with great success, but this is, in my opinion, it's a bit of a system, and when you're trying to refinish your seats, it works. What can I say? I'm very pleased with the results, as I mentioned, on the SL500, and the steering wheel on this car. There you go. That really looks very, very good. It came back nicely. I will do a second coat on that just to pick up some spots that didn't cover evenly. Don't feel bad if one coat doesn't get it for you. It does take some time. So let me get the gloves on. We're going to start with the acetone first and work through everything in real time. Ooh, we're getting high tech here. Hang tight. Okay, so we're going to start the process. As I mentioned, first step is acetone. Be careful with this. It is a rather toxic chemical. Don't let it get on plastics or anything else. And you can see right away the seat is losing its sheen, so we are breaking that top coat, and we've got some dirt coming off, which is good. So I'll put a little more on. I'm not even going to do the headrests, so I'm going to power those out of the way. And we just basically wipe everything down, and you can see more dirt, and keep at it. Get rid of all of this shine off of the seats, and we can see we're sort of exposing some of the dirt and markings. I think someone at one point in time spilled some white paint in here. It's not much, but it still is here. Okay, so that's done. We're going to just put that outside of the car because it stinks and I don't want to smell acetone. Next, we are going to go to the conditioning foam, or the cleaning foam. And this is a really nice product. I actually do like this. And I just spray it generously over the seat. There we go. And we'll just simply wipe it in. Stop that acetone rag from flying away. Okay. And it's actually not too bad. The acetone, as you might well expect, gets most of the dirt off. But we are getting this seat nice and clean and ready for the dyeing process. I've actually have not done a repair in real time before, so this is something new for me. Okay, and one towel to wipe everything off. There we go. Make sure the gloves are covering our hands properly. And, okay, clean the top of the seat off a little bit. I'll go through on a second pass and do the seat tops and seat backs. But for now, this gets me the best bang for the buck in terms of feeling like I'm actually accomplishing something. Now, the next step is to actually work with the pigmented cream, the balm as it were. Okay, and this is particularly messy stuff. Now, I'm going to simply reuse the sponge that came with the kit. You can do that, it's not a problem. And we just start working it in, and you will notice right away it is covering every single thing that we touch. I'm going to move the seat back. No, maybe not. And it's drying very, very quickly. So just work it in, be slow with it. There's absolutely no rush here. Just work it in and go section by section. There we go. And it looks good. Based on where I'm actually kneeling outside of the car, you can probably tell. Work furthest away from you so you don't end up wearing this stuff. You might be able to see I'm wearing yellow shorts. I don't want them to be black and yellow. So just working away here, trying to avoid any streaks in this dye and covering everything in a very uniform manner. Now, off camera you can't see, but I'm just going to put a little bit on the top of the gear shift lever as well. Yeah, there we go. This kind of works on plastics and vinyls too, but it's really a leather product. And there, that's gotten me some more uniform appearance on that gear shift lever. I'll show you after. It was really worn. Okay, now we'll move into here. Just work it in. If you're so inclined, you know, rub it in with your gloved fingers as well, if that works for you. But do try and stay on one panel in the seat, just to ensure that you're sort of keeping track of what you're doing. If you have to go back and use a tool, a pick or something to open up the perforation in the leather, do that, but do it very carefully. The more careful you are at this stage, the more things will pay off and you're going to be so pleased. And I can tell already the seat's just going to look like $1,000,000 when it's done. Okay. Now we're kind of fortunate with these seats, as Mercedes and BMW in the period too, I don't know about Audi, but they use vat dyed leather. And that is really when the hides, the entire hide is put in a vat of dye, rather than having the dye sprayed on, which is more the process now. And vat dyeing is a more expensive process, so that's why we don't see it too much anymore. Oh, work it in, work it in, work it in, work it in, uniform manner. There we go. Okay. If you have to do a second pass with this, don't worry about it. You're trying to make something look great. You're not trying to set a land speed record here by doing the job. Okay. Now we're getting to more of the wear areas, so do pay attention. Again, just go at a nice pace. Make sure the job is done well. If you have to do a second pass, that's okay. Okay, side bolster. Now, have a look here. You know, sort of treat this like you're painting a wall or staining a fence, maybe, something along those lines. Try not to get your, you know, lap lines visible. It does tend to smooth out pretty nicely on its own, but everything you can do to apply the product neatly just helps. And I'm going back over here because I'm seeing lines that were created from the first pass. I may be making it worse, but again, I'm not going to worry too much about it because I do fully intend to do a second pass. So we're down to, oh, that's a little too much. We're down to the last section of the seat, the bolster that gets the most wear, or, you know, the cushion bolster, I guess. And at this point, I'm just going to rub the seat with my hand too, because these gloves are going to be toast very shortly. This product will get everywhere, so you're going to need to wear gloves unless you like having leather dye with you for days and days and days. It's not a good look, so let's not do that. Okay. Now we're going to let this dry for a few minutes. I'm just going to work out all of the lines and best as I can. The conditioning cream does serve to hide a lot of this, but we want to get it as good as we possibly can now. Don't worry if everything looks a little bit, you know, on the matte side. It's fine. When we work in the conditioning cream, it will come up very nicely, I promise. I've done this a few times. Trust me, I've done this a few times. What a difference. I'm already seeing great stuff. The wear marks that were through here are gone. I'm super happy with that. And I am going to close this up. I'm not going to do any more dyeing work at the moment. Okay, and the footwell here, which you can't see off camera, I've got some towels down just to put the sponge that I was using and the canister of the pigment. Okay, now that I've got some dye buildup there. Smear it around. If you got puddles of it, smear it around with your gloved fingers. Don't let it go to waste. Don't let it cake up or it's going to have a real problem drying. Okay, there we are. I'm going to take one hand off. There we go. We're going to stop it briefly. Then we're going to wait probably about 10 minutes. I'll test to see how dry everything is. And if it's dry enough, we'll come back with the conditioning cream, put that on, and you'll see what the seat looks like fully treated. And I think you're going to be very, very pleased with the results. Hang tight. So we're back. It's been about 10 minutes, maybe 15. I've spent some time detailing the driver's side rear door card. It was the last one that I hadn't done in my initial cleaning. So that's looking, excuse me, really good. Nice jet black and you know, a little bit of gloss to it, just the way I kind of like. Now the seat, you know, I've rubbed it with this to see if I'm picking up any black. There's a speck or two here and there, but I think for all intents and purposes, we can apply the conditioning cream and you can see what kind of a difference it makes. This is, for me anyway, the really exciting transformational part. And here we go. So this product, just rub it in very generously and you get that nice sheen on the leather, kind of the way it looked before we treated it with the acetone to take the glazing off. That leather is just drinking it in. So it looks already so much better. think you should be able to see here. This is where we get some of the consistency back in the color. You know, we don't have patches of or streaks. It's, you know, not really visible. This does a great job hiding it. But just look, the difference between the treated and the non, I think it looks phenomenal. And we are picking up, admittedly, some of the dye, but it was in the crevice of the seat where the seat back meets the seat cushion. So we'll work across, working everything in. And that seat is just looking so good. That is one happy seat right there, if seats could be happy. Get this bolster complete, and then we'll go to the seat back. Okay. Gonna grab a fresh towel. Again, some of the dye that is in the corner here, I'm picking that up. I'm not too worried about it. It will dry easily enough. Okay, so work it into the seat back, get all those crevices between the panels. Doesn't that look great? That is the way it's supposed to look. Happy, happy leather. And this product you can apply at any time. You don't have to do it just after a re-dyeing process. Well, I'm probably going to order a little bit more of it. I'm not sure you can pick it up on the camera, but some of the perforations, I think I stuffed up with the recoloring balm. I may have to go with a pick tool and, you know, pick those out after the fact. Not a big deal, just a little bit more labor, and hey, my time's free, right? Okay, now we'll do the seat cushion panels. You can see that that is getting a nice, deep, rich luster to it. That is a good looking piece of seat. You thought I might have said something else there, but I did not. This is not a PG-13 show. Okay, there we go. That seat is happy, it's treated, and this is off camera. I'll show you in a sec. Just gonna treat the gear shift knob. It's right beside the camera, so you unfortunately can't see it from where you are, but I will show you. There. And that's got an evenness to the gloss. You may want to experiment even trying this on some of the plastic trim. I mean, it's a pretty safe product, and you know, maybe it can get some gloss back in other areas of the car for you too. Got a lot of cleaning to do in the center console. Yeah, that looks nice. That's really good. Super pleased with that. That's Clyde's. You can find that online. Again, Clyde's leather. Really recommend it. You know, I've used it on 2 vehicles. Wouldn't hesitate to use it on another, or recommend it to anybody needing to do some leather reconditioning and restoration. I think it's just a terrific product. You do a little bit of leather reconditioning on the back side of the armrest too. I did treat the armrest, but I didn't. Oh, there's a little stop there. I didn't re-dye the entire thing, but it does definitely need a cleaning. And the product smells very nice too, which is always a bonus. So I'll quickly show you the gear shift knob. So it was worn very badly there, you know, just normal wear and tear, and that brings it back. You know, it may not be perfect, but I haven't decided if I'm going to install as a Brano wood gear shifter or leave it factory black. A lot of black in this interior, so maybe breaking it up with some additional wood would be kind of nice. At any rate, that is the Clyde's leather treatment. I will probably do a second application on the driver's side, and also work around some of the other surfaces of the seat, but I really just wanted to address the actual seating surface first, because that gives a big payback to the overall appearance of the vehicle. I just took years off of this, decades even. This is how it would have looked when it was new, and it's just stunning. I really like this car. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to getting everything dealt with on it and really bringing it back to good state of health. It's a good car. It deserves it. Any rate, that's it. Next project, I'm not sure what we're going to do next. We'll see what parts come in. That will kind of dictate. I've got a monovalve plunger on order. We're going to do that. Oh, the windshield washer nozzle. That does not work. Although the headlight wiper nozzle does work, so I have to see what's going on there. Might be just the main pump is gone. We'll see. Any rate, that's it for today. Thanks, folks. Hey, welcome back to the garage. We're going to continue our work on the project car, the 300 SEL W126 Mercedes. Parts have been coming in despite a Canada Post service disruption, so that means not everything I've ordered is going to make its way in too quickly, unfortunately. Yesterday, was it yesterday or 2 days ago? 2 days ago, I got a new set of power window switches, which I already installed. That was pretty simple, and I did show you how to take the center console wood inlay out. Well, once that's out, you can pop the switches out and put the new ones in. That's pretty straightforward, so no point in showing that again. But what I did get today was a replacement for the Hirschmann power antenna through Parts Avatar in Canada, which is great. I believe the part is made by Euro, U-R-O. I think we'll get a shot of the box and we can confirm that for you. I had mentioned in one of the episodes early on that the top of the antenna was damaged and water could get in, so we've got to correct that. And the antenna itself isn't working. Surprise, surprise, they do have a nasty habit of wearing out prematurely, and I've had several cars with the Hirschmann system, as have other people in my family. So yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's kind of a neat throwback, but it's not exactly the most foolproof design ever made. So we're going to deal with that. I also got a new washer fluid pump. Now, the washer fluid for the headlight washer system, including the wipers work, and it's so cool. It's so 1980s. But the washer pump for the windshield washers didn't work. That's a little more important. So that came in. That was an Amazon purchase. Under $14, like $13.80, something along those lines. So that was pretty cool. We're going to change that out. I'm going to pull the battery out first, and I'm going to use that as an excuse to get in and vacuum up the decaying leaves that are under the battery. Now, not only does that cause rust, but if you get blockages in some of the drainage tubes from that area around the battery, that can cause a backup of water, and it can go in all the places you don't want it to go in and cause some electrical problems and unnecessary rust problems. So we're going to nip that in the bud before it gets any worse. So that's one of the things we're going to do. We're going to replace the power antenna. I found a proper 126 jack. I'm going to pick that up tomorrow and add that to the things I have to do to get the trunk freshened up. What else are we going to do? I think that's it for today. The washer fluid pump, vacuum under the battery, and install the Hirschmann antenna, which, by the way, I don't think I can actually test until I get the new radio faceplate in, and that's one of the things that's held up in the Canada Post issue, as far as I know. If it comes early, hey, that's great, but I think it's going to be caught up. So, at any rate, here we go. We'll see you out there in the trunk first. Okay, so we're inside the trunk of the 126. You can see the Hirschmann power antenna. It's basically held in with one screw here, and in a functioning antenna, you'd have a little bit of plastic on top of the fender, and that's pretty much all that's left of it. So there we go. Now this unit might be rebuildable. I'm not going to throw it out. I do have a tendency to want to keep some of the original parts that I carry, that I pull out from the car, but hey, that's me. Now, in order to make this easier to get into, I just removed the carpeting. There's a couple of clips. You take off the tail light panel here, just, you know, just pull it back while you're getting the carpeting out. And when the carpeting's removed, it is a little fussy, but you can get at everything super easy. Don't even bother trying it with the carpet in place. You'll sort of hate yourself. Much easier, you know, to do this with a simple tool, a little ratchet, miniature ratchet. They're pretty handy. So that screw will come out like so. I unplugged the antenna at the top here. I don't know if the replacement one has the same plug or not, or if I'm gonna have to splice something in. I'll figure it out. Oh, and look at that. Everything's out. That's the grounding strap for the antenna. So we'll just undo that as well. There we go. That may be just slightly off camera, but just a Phillips screw. It's nothing special. Okay, and get that out, and then of course that last black wire that you see is the actual antenna itself from the stereo. There we go. All right, so we're unplugged, and now I'm going to move the camera over, make sure we get everything here. Let me grab the box for the new antenna and we'll do an unpackaging. Did I say unpackaging? I meant unboxing. So there we go. That's what I ordered from Parts Avatar, and it did show it as being an equivalent for the W126. So let's see what we got. Okay, well, we got enough plastic mounts for the fender. That's great. And we have a much more compact setup here. So hopefully this will work just as nicely as the OEM. So we'll start with removing the supplied power, or the supplied antenna lead. We don't need that. We've got some bracketry to try and get things together, which I suspect we're going to need. And then a harness to tie the new antenna into the old system. I suspect there'll be plus and minus 12 volt DC and something to trigger the antenna to actually move. I'll have to sort that out, but as you can see, pretty compact. It's basically the same idea though. Let me go ahead and get the physical install done at least. I'm gonna have to sort out a wiring diagram and see what plugs into what. There's 5 leads. There is a switch on the dash too, so I'll have to see how to tie that in. Not a big deal, but you know, it's another something to do. So let me work through this and I'll show you how far I get. Yeah, you should know by now that nothing ever goes as planned. So the electrical connector to the old Hirschmann antenna, it has a Mercedes plug on it. Well, this is the electrics of that antenna connection. So I suspect since we have 2 connections, or 2 switches really, to activate the antenna, one, the signal from the stereo itself when you turn it on, and second, the switch on the dashboard for maximum antenna or retract the antenna, we probably have all the connections for those 2 switches coming here, and there's simply an output to the antenna motor. So what I've got to do is find a small electronics projects box that will fit this. I'll fit this electronics to that box, connect that to the antenna motor, and then we'll test it. So this job is underway. But what I wanted to show you was the change out of the water, the windshield washer fluid pump in the motor. So pretty simple. Well, maybe as simple as they get. Okay, so I took the battery out, as you can see. I vacuumed in that little nook. There were quite a number of leaves there. So that's gone. Here we've got the windshield washer, or the headlight washer fluid pump, which works. The windshield washer fluid pump is there. I've got a screwdriver in here because if I take it out, the windshield washer fluid will gush everywhere and I don't want to create a problem. We've got the old pump, pretty straightforward stuff, and the Amazon replacement pump. So I'm going to go ahead and connect the wiring to that. Now, interestingly enough, this is not just typical washer fluid hose, as one might expect from Mercedes-Benz. Nothing is typical. There are wires here, and these wires, well, something's been cut at some point in time. This may have something to do with the heated system. I don't know. I've got to do some further research on that. But at any rate, I'm going to go ahead and get this wiper motor in, or washer fluid motor in, reinstall the battery, test it, and then I'm going to go shopping for a projects box case and some miniature electrical connectors. Please stay put and I'll show you everything when it's bundled up. And nighttime fell on the garage. So nothing's ever as simple as you might think. But with respect to the windshield washer repair, here's what I did. I did install the new windshield washer and cleaned up under the battery tray. All of that's good, happy with that. But guess what? We're still not getting fluid coming out of the windshield washer nozzles. So I can hear the windshield washer motor turn, which I could not hear before, but we've got some other problems. So the next step will be to maybe run some compressed air through the washer fluid line to the nozzles. Not sure, but it is a heated washer nozzle system, so I might be dealing with a lot of debris in that system, and I've got to do some further investigation on that. There's actually, from what I understand, a heater course somewhere in there, and a few other things. So I need to check. I don't think it's anything, like, this isn't rocket science, but you just got to check component by component. And I'm not going to drive the car anyway if it's really, icky weather. So it doesn't matter. I'll sort through it. So that's where we are. I'll give you an update. I'm going to head at it probably tomorrow evening after work. We'll see what we can find. And I gave you an update on the power antenna motor install. I just have to find a project box and some small connectors to actually wire up the Hirschmann replacement antenna to at least the dash mount switch on the 126. So there you are. Have a great evening. We'll talk to you again probably tomorrow. Bye-bye.